Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I finally have my land bridge speed build for you. Now, if you are watching my streams, you might have already seen this, and I will be sure to link all the streams where we worked on this down below. I think there are like 3 in total, but today I have them all edited into one single speed build. Now, as usual with my builds, I had a, general idea going into this. I knew that I wanted to have kind of a bigger land bridge, and as you can see here, I'm building it up with like 4 tiles because I wanted it to be relatively long and wide, just so that if you walk over it, all you can see in that one single shot is the land bridge and the areas beside it. And so first I started building up the actual land bridge just so I could visualize a little bit better how much space I actually had to fill on both the left and right side, which at that point I knew I was only going to fill with certain types of land and waterscaping. Like I didn't want to put any houses there or anything like that. I just wanted to have a nice scenery. Now for the pathway on top of my bridge, I kind of wanted to find something where I could still use all those design codes that I used all over my island with the circular pathing that I chose, but still I wanted it to be something different. And I then ended up being inspired by Mel, aka ACNH_Barcanos, as well as Ask You the Island on Instagram, because they both had this like stripy design, which I really liked. And I think both of them kind of incorporated some leaf designs on top of it, but I really planned to have all those other designs like the stone pathing and the daisy tile and all those beautiful, beautiful codes, which by the way, I will be linking down in the description box, as well as the original creator wherever I could find them. So if you do see any codes that you like, then I highly suggest checking out the description box, as well as all the amazing original creators, and I'm also working on a code video at the moment. I had also built up this platform right behind my river mouth because I kind of wanted to incorporate it. Like I wanted to have some type of waterscaping on both sides. It was really important for me to incorporate quite a lot of water on this island, so that's really my plan. And so I made the platform kind of behind my river mouth so that that one could just flow into whatever river or pond I decided to do. And then I really mapped out my bridge. Like I tried to connect those two. I connected the platform with my bridge and then checked back and forth to see if it was long enough and if I liked the shot that it gave you when you stood on top of it. And then I ended up with something like this. I continued to lay the pathing once again to help me visualize things. And same thing goes for the fencing, by the way. I highly recommend this because I feel like it really, really gives a very different image with the fencing than it does without. Now, I knew that I didn't want to keep this type of fencing, but still it helped me visualize the entire sizing and proportions and all that so much better. Now on this right side, I thought that with the beach there, it was kind of awkward to just have water, to just have a pond or a lake, whatever you want to call it. So I decided to kind of balance it out with another cliff and to kind of use that as like an anchor point where I could have some waterfalls coming out of it and just, incorporate a little bit more depth and detail. I know I say these 2 words way too often, but it's definitely true. That's something I really always pay attention to, is to have different heights. And whenever I think that there is a spot that's kind of awkward, I try to cover it up with something else and make it work that way. Now throughout this speed build, I'll be popping back in and out just to kind of explain some of my thoughts to you and take you along on the process. And apart from the cliff that we just built, I basically wanted to fill all of this with water. I knew that I also wanted to incorporate some trees, and we'll get to that in a bit. But first I just started to kind of go from the river mouth inwards and fill everything with water, but kind of pay attention to the edges kind of being rounded and to everything looking more or less natural, as I always like that a lot more. But of course that is absolutely your personal preference. And I also mapped out kind of where I wanted some waterfalls by leading the river or pond to the cliffs, where I knew that I wanted to later on connect it. Now, with it being a bridge, I also wanted to put water on both sides of the cliffs that actually build the bridge, so that when you stand on top, it actually looks like there is water flowing underneath. I then quickly realized that I needed to leave some room for some trees, as they sadly require a 3x3 space each, and so I just mapped those out by digging some holes and then worked around those and removed as much of the land as I possibly could, but of course I still wanted to make sure that those trees would go there. And once I had gotten the shape of the lake to the point where I really liked it, I then went up on the tier to add those waterfalls that I kind of planned on. Sometimes I had to then go back and fill out the cliff to actually be able to put them there. But you know, as you can see, this cliff is generally not complete yet, so of course that has to happen once in a while. And now it was time for the first bits of greenery, and I started adding some trees, and I always try to kind of switch in between the 3 different ones, so hardwood, cedar, and bamboo, just because they all give you different kinds of green and therefore lots of variety. At that time, I still wasn't 100% sure my pathing concept would work out, so what I did is I created my path leading up to the land bridge, and then I went ahead and removed all the fencing so that I could then actually put down all the design codes. And I left this in because, once again, there was quite a bit of struggle. It's sometimes hard to kind of match the different shades and different patterns together, but it also is very much fun, especially once you notice that it's kind of coming together and you're actually getting somewhere that you really like the pathing. And so I tried to balance out all the colors and all the patterns and tried them on different on all those different stripes. Now, some of them are completely covering like the stone tile, and then we have the sunflowers, which kind of partly cover it. I later on also used some of my circle designs and did like 2 half circles on the pathing, which is also actually quite nice. I would just recommend that if you do this type of pathway, just have some fun with it and try around. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time around, trust me. It almost never is for me. And it wouldn't be the first time that I went back after stream to redo some of my pathing, just because in that moment I kind of couldn't figure out a good composition. So really take your time and just enjoy the process. I could have chosen to first do the left half of the land bridge, but I felt so inspired by this pathing that I actually decided to do all the fencing, and I wanted to be equally wild with it. Like, I didn't want it to be the same item all over the sides, but I wanted it to be lots of different items, and I wanted first and foremost to be able to incorporate my beloved plants. So you'll see a lot of those. You'll see some hedges, which I finally was able to incorporate somewhere on my island. You'll see some butterfly models later on. This is also, I think, something where and I know this isn't really a tip, but I would just say have fun. Not everything needs to be realistic. I don't think that there will be butterfly models in the real world or patchwork bridges like this, but still, it's a lot of fun. And if you just try a few things, then you will for sure find something that you like. However, once again, a tip that I can give you is to play around with different heights of items and also pay attention to how see-through an item is. So for some items, if you place them, you will still kind of be able to see whatever you place behind it, and others are very dense and you won't really be able to see through them. So take this into consideration when you choose your items. Try some stuff and kind of see what heights are kind of good, what general types of items you prefer, and then try to find substitute for those if you're not 100% happy with them. And like I said, I'm sure that you will find something you love. Sometimes it can already help to elevate a certain item, or maybe even just change the color, and then suddenly it'll work with all the items around it. In the next stream, it was then time to go down on the left side and work on this one. Now I knew that I kind of wanted this area to just be lower in the ground and everything around it still be on that same level as the land bridge. So I kind of wanted to have like a sunken waterfall, sunken pond, whatever situation. And so what I did first was to map out this area, and something I wanted to pay attention to, of course, I didn't want to have too many edges or like straight parts, so I made sure that I rounded everything, and I had kind of, you know, some different parts, and I brought some stuff forward, some stuff I left in the back. I hope you know what I mean, but basically I think you can probably see it on screen. And then something else I made sure is that if you stood on top of the land bridge, you could actually just see this part. So this is what I did here. Actually entered photo mode and checked both sides, and I was happy with the way that it looked here. And so I then went ahead and kind of worked on all the corners a little bit more. I went outside to fill out all of the cliffs to then be able to go back in and round the corners, because as you know, that is something I definitely do pay attention to. Just like on the other side, I went ahead and filled all of this with water so that on top of the bridge, it actually looks like the water is flowing underneath the bridge. And then because we had the composition with the cliff on the other side, I wanted to have this side much more water and much more flat, if that makes sense. And because it's built into this cliff and it's kind of lower to the ground, I felt like that really worked. And so the first thing that I had to do was basically fill everything out with water. I will be kind of trying to figure out some areas for waterfalls. So you will see me kind of lead the water to the cliff, which is kind of where I will later on then add some waterfalls. But apart from that, I pretty much filled everything. I did leave a little island to the left to have another tree on top of it, just because I felt like without that there wouldn't have been any place for any like greenery and like higher objects, and once again I would have probably missed all the depth. And so that's kind of what I did. I filled everything with water, then I kind of measured where I wanted my tree to be and brought it to the cliffs to have waterfalls later on. Then again, it was time to figure out all the places for my waterfalls, and this, I have to say, really helped with making it look a bit better, because in the back here you can see that the water does look a bit weird when it's not connected to anything but then like has edges like that. So this can really help tie everything together. And then you might have guessed it already, I wanted to add some more details, and so I wanted to add some stepping stones. What I did here is I kind of roughly mapped out 3 stepping stones that I wanted to have. I wanted to have them on like different levels, and that's what I did first. And then I went up on the bridge to kind of see the positions of them. It'll look a bit weird because I left these two stepping stones there, even though I didn't want to have them, but that helped me to kind of envision it. And then I decided upon seeing that I wanted to shift one of them a little bit more and went back to readjust. And even though I had figured out the positions, I needed to waterscape again, just so I would be able to actually decorate them, because of course if you want to place an item, you can stand on top of the spot where you wanted, but you actually have to have some land in front of it. So this can be a bit tricky, and you might have to call rescue services or, waterscape your way to save shores, but it did work out in the end, and we actually figured out some nice decorations for these stepping stones, which look pretty good together. And with those stepping stones decorated, we still had those pieces around the sides to decorate, as well as the entire right side that we built earlier. And so that is what I did next. I kind of looked at the different colors of green, and I kind of tried to imagine some of the plants or some other items, and kind of worked my way there. A lot of times I had to do some additional waterscaping, or as you'll see in a moment, I even had to call rescue services, I think twice. So yeah, decorating this can definitely, once again, be a bit tricky, but also, in my opinion, totally worth it, because having even just these tiny pieces of land with a few items or design codes or flowers really does make a huge, huge difference in the overall look of the area. And then it was also time to work on this right side with all the trees that we had earlier and the cliff and the little island. And once again, it's just, items with different heights so that you have a nice composition. I really love using the sunflower design underneath potted plants. I think it just adds such a beautiful touch, and I really, really love it. And then also, of course, flowers can be super convenient, especially in areas that you can't really easily reach. And because the majority of you said that you actually don't mind the stream overlays and you'd still like to see the speed builds, I also added this little part on, which we did I think like 2 or 3 streams later, which was adding some cliffs in the background. Now they're not really part of the official land bridge build, but I do think because they're super visible from the front that it's kind of important to also show this. So I also wanted to have, a bit more height, once again, my beloved word, and then also have some more waterfalls that actually connect to the lower waterfalls so that everything makes a bit more sense and it just seems to be a little bit more put together, if you know what I mean. So this was something I also wanted to show you. Once again, we had quite a bit of a struggle. Waterscaping and landscaping can be super hard, so absolutely don't worry if you struggle with this. We all do. Most people just don't show it, to be perfectly honest. If you like to see the entire process, like I said, I will be linking the streams down below, and that is pretty much everything for the land bridge speed build. I will probably be adding more details, especially in the background in the future, but for now, this is pretty much how far we came. I will be showing you a walkthrough with the finished build in just a bit, so stay tuned for that. But apart from that, I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and also consider subscribing if you'd like to see more of this theme and more of this style of videos. And with that, I'll leave you with the calm music to enjoy the last bit of the video, and I hope to see you very, very soon again.